Hi there, this is Pranav from DBS Diary. So today we are going to talk about Tempdb. So how can we create multiple Tempdb and how do we manage that, and how do we do binding from an application or with a login, and how does it really help? So we are going to see all of that. So this is one of the topic that was there in the Sybase ASE training topic. So we are going to cover that. Okay, so let's start the lab. And I have prepared list of command. So let me exit from here and let me log in from the start so that you will see the server name and all detail. So as you can see, I have a instance which is ASE1. So ISQL minus ASE1 minus CUSA minus W. W is for the Windows size. Okay. So by default will be in the master database. You can find that out. Right. Okay, so I have list of command that I have prepared, and then we'll go through and then we'll see how do we really do the binding, and then how it actually changes the like login process and how the tempdb are allocated. So before that, let me show you when you do sp_who right now. So you will see everything is going to tempdb, right? This is all going to tempdb. Okay. This is the default Tempdb which comes along with the installation of the Sybase, or you can say Sybase ASE. So, and here in terms of login, let me show you. I don't have any extra login other than what comes with the system, right? So you can see one is SA and other one is Pro, right? Okay, so now let's create one login. Okay, lab login just for our lab purpose. So lab is the login and lab 567 is the password. Okay, so this login is created. Now what we'll do, we will create a temporary database, but before that we need to initialize device for that. So let's do the initialization. Okay, so this is done. Now let us do for the log. So first one was for the data and other one is for the log. Okay, so now we have device ready. Okay, so you can see that the device is created. Okay, then let's create the temporary database on tempdb lab data, which is this device, and tempdb log lab log, which is the log device, right? This is 10 MB, this is 5 MB. So I am allocating all the space here. Okay, so tempdb lab is online. Now you can do sp_helpdb and you will see that there will be tempdb_lab database, which is created as a temporary database, right? Doesn't have recovery. Okay, now what we'll do, now we have this login already, right, that we have seen, and we'll do binding with this. We'll do binding of tempdb lab database with login lab. So before that, let's log in with login lab in different session and see where does it actually go. So let's log in here. Lab. Okay, and lab 567 is the password. Okay, now sp_who you can do here, or you can do in other session also. So you will see that lab login, right? Lab login is still going to tempdb, right? Now let's exit from here and let's go to another session where we have done this database creation, and now do the binding. Let us do binding of, this is the command. So sp tempdb is a system defined procedure which is used for tempdb operations. So first is bind, or you can use unbind if you want to unbind something. LG is for the login and lab is the login because I am specifying LG, and then lab is the login database, which database is the one that you want to define for binding. So it is tempdb_lab, and tempdb_lab is the one which is created now as a temporary database. So let's do that. Okay, So this is successful. Now what we'll do, now we had this login, right? So now let's log in again with the same login, lab 567, and now let us see how does it change. Okay, so now you see this lab login, now the Tempdb is changed to Tempdb_lab. So this is the SA login, I guess. So let's do this sp_Tempdb and show. So you can see this lab login is having soft binding with database Tempdb_lab. So soft binding is something which is kind of default when you create the binding. So this helps you when you have any issue with the Tempdb_lab. So in case of issue or in case of it is completely full, this will not throw any error, rather it will go for the default Tempdb or for the default group. So that's the advantage. But if you change the binding or this hardness to hard, then in case this database Tempdb_lab is having any issue, so this login will fail, it will not really work out. Okay, so that is the significance of this soft and null and hard, right? Okay, now what we'll do, so now we'll bind SA login also with Tempdb_lab. So right now SA login is not having any binding. So if I exit from here and if I log into ASE1, right, so why this keyboard is not working. So SA login is going to Tempdb, which is default, right? Now what we'll do, we'll change this SA, we'll bind this SA with Tempdb_lab. So then afterwards, when you log in using SA, it will use the Tempdb, which is Tempdb_lab. So let us see that as well. So here the command will remain same, only the login instead of lab, it will become SA. So this is one. So here I am showing you the like binding with login. Next we'll see binding for application. Okay. So now this is done. So let us exit from here so that it will change. So while you are logged in, it will not change anything. The Tempdb which is allocated will not change. Okay. So now if you do sp_who, you will see that this SA is also going to Tempdb_lab Tempdb. Okay. So the default temporary database is changed from Tempdb to Tempdb_lab. So let me explain a little bit about Tempdb. So Tempdb is nothing but it is accessible by all databases. Okay, this is universal, and this is used for all kind of temporary operation. Okay, so you would have seen about work tables. So all this work table that you see in the execution plan or when you are doing sorting and other thing, right? So all these things are done in Tempdb. So having multiple Tempdb, and when you do binding with a specific login, so you can say, for example, you have a maintenance job. So and you are using ment login over there. So that ment login or kind of you can say backup and any other operation that you do. So like reorg, rebuild, update, stat. So if you are using any specific login there, and if you do the binding of that login with a temp database, user defined temporary database at a faster mount or with a faster device, so this will help you in achieving faster response time and faster operation instead of having one default Tempdb, right? So that is the use of it. And many times there are few applications which is very critical. Okay, and your Tempdb is already heavily utilized by other application. So that particular application, for example, no payroll application which is run once in a month. So that kind of thing which should be finished faster, or you can also have example of end of day, right? So this kind of thing you can have your own dedicated Tempdb. You can do the binding either with a login or even with the application. So in certain cases, this payroll processing will be through some specific application, right? So that application name you can find out from the sys processes, right? So from there you can find out what is the application name, and from there you can take it. So here you will see the application name. Let me show you. this program name, right? So that is something which can help you, right? So now let us do this binding with a application. Okay, so before that, let's create another database and then we'll do the binding. So let's create the device. Okay, now let's create another device for this database for the log. Okay, now let's create database, which is temporary database. So there is different command, it's not exactly same command which you use for database creation. So you need to use keyword temporary for the temp database to be created, right? So this temporary database will be created. Okay, so now you can see it is online. So you can do sp_helpdb and you can find this out, right? Tempdb_lab and tempdb_dba diary. So now what we will do, we will do this like binding with application. Application will be ISQL and DB will be tempdb_dba diary. So now if we use this command, so now what will happen is all the application which is having this, which is using the application ISQL will be connected to tempdb_dba diary. Okay, but again this is not something which will always take precedent. First is the login, then application. So which I showed you before, sp_tempdb and then show. So you can see first is login, then application, then you can define group and all, right? So first precedent will be taken by login, then application. So in this case there is no login, it is ISQL, right? So if you see now sp_who, so DB diary will not be used. Even if I exit now and use the ISQL for SA login, so still that will not change. Okay, so this will still not change SA log. It will still connect. It will still be connected to tempdb_lab, and it will not go to tempdb_dba diary. Yeah, but if you create another login, and that will not have binding with tempdb, then it will use tempdb_dba diary. So let's create another login now, just for testing that application. How does that actually work, right? So this login is created. Okay. And you log in with this account. Okay, let's open another session. MySQL -SASE1 -u, and the login is test_ISQL, right? And -w test_ISQL 567. Okay, so it's logged in. So now if you see, this login will be using tempdb_dba diary, because this login is not having any binding and it's using ISQL application. So if you use select star from master.sys processes, where SPID is equal to 33. Okay, so you will see that app is application name is ISQL here, right? So based on this, it will use tempdb_dba diary. So this way we have seen that you can either do binding with login or with the specific application, or you can also define with the group. Okay, so let me show you one more thing. Let's go back to this one. sp_tempdb show. Okay, so now you can see this is SA and lab and ISQL is this. There is another thing, sp_tempdb, and you can use, let me see the command, who and then yes. So basically you can see which all logins are present in this particular database right now. So dba diary. Okay, so you can see that which all applications or which all sessions are using this particular database right now, right? So when tempdb is getting heavily utilized, so instead of running that sp underscore who or sys processes, you can find this out from here as well. So sp underscore tempdb who, and use another database which is tempdb underscore lab, right? So this will give you which all sessions are running currently in under this database, right? Yeah, so this is about Tempdb and how do we create multiple Tempdb and how do we do the binding of that. Okay, so I hope this will help. Yeah. Okay then. Yeah, thank you very much. Do let me know in case of any question. Okay, thank you.